They thought she was just a quiet single mother tending to her lonely farm on the outskirts of town. But when the bullies decided to turn her land into their playground of terror, they never imagined that the woman they mocked, harassed, and tried to break was once a Green Beret sniper who had seen more war, death, and survival than any of them could dream. And when she finally rose, they realized too late that they had awakened a storm that would swallow them whole. They thought she was just a quiet single mother tending to her lonely farm on the outskirts of town. But when the bullies decided to turn her land into their playground of terror, they never imagined that the woman they mocked, harassed, and tried to break was once a Green Beret sniper who had seen more war, death, and survival than any of them could dream. And when she finally rose, they realized too late that they had awakened a storm that would swallow them whole. The quiet town had always whispered about the woman who lived at the edge of the valley, a single mother who seemed to keep to herself, tending her crops, raising her little boy, and avoiding unnecessary contact with neighbors. But what nobody truly knew, because she had worked so hard to bury it, was that before she was just the quiet farmer, she had been a Green Beret sniper, the kind of soldier who could hold her breath for minutes and take out enemies from half a mile away without blinking, the kind of soldier who had crawled through mud and blood to finish missions nobody else dared attempt. Yet after her husband was killed in an accident and the military life had finally drained every ounce of her spirit, she chose to retreat into the simple world of farm life to raise her son in peace. But peace is fragile, and predators are always drawn to quiet places. And when a gang of bullies, local thugs who thought they owned the town, men who thrived on intimidation, vandalism, and cruelty, set their sights on her small farm because they believed she was weak, vulnerable, and an easy target, they unknowingly signed their own death warrants, for they mistook silence for weakness, and solitude for fear, and they had no idea that behind her calm gaze lived a warrior trained to dismantle entire squads in the dead of night. It began with small things. At first, the bullies trespassing on her land, spray painting her barn with crude words, breaking her fences, scaring her livestock, and laughing at her when she confronted them at the edge of her property. Their leader, a broad-shouldered brute named Travis, smirking as he told her that maybe she should sell the land before someone got hurt, but she only tightened her jaw and went back to her work, refusing to be baited. Not yet, because her son, little Daniel, was her anchor, and she wanted to shield him from violence, to give him a childhood unscarred by the kind of brutality she had endured overseas. But one night, when she found her crops set ablaze and her boy's puppy missing, something inside her shifted, something ancient and trained and deadly awoke, and she realized that ignoring them would not protect her son, it would only embolden the bullies. And that was the night she unlocked the trunk beneath her bed, the one that hadn't seen daylight in years, the one filled with memories of war. Her rifle, her sidearm, her field knives, her camouflage gear, all carefully oiled, polished, and ready, as if waiting for her to finally accept that peace was an illusion in a world where monsters roamed freely. And while Daniel slept, she slipped into the woods and tracked the sound of laughter, finding the bullies at their makeshift camp, drunk, loud, and careless, bragging about what they had done, tossing her son's puppy back and forth like a toy. And though she wanted nothing more than to put a bullet between each of their eyes, she restrained herself, because war had taught her patience. War had taught her that a predator doesn't rush. A predator waits for the perfect moment to strike, and so she only observed that night, marking their habits, their weaknesses, their arrogance, then slipping away like a shadow, unseen and unheard. The next day, Travis showed up at her farm again with two of his men, demanding money for protection, but she only looked him dead in the eye, a cold, calculating stare that made him falter for just a second, though he quickly covered it with a laugh, not knowing that by then, she had already decided their fates, because she had given them enough warnings, and enough mercy, and mercy is wasted on those who see kindness as weakness. That night, she set her traps, simple at first, snares in the woods, false trails, and distractions, but enough to lure them in when they came looking for more trouble. And sure enough, they did, stomping through the brush with flashlights and beer bottles, cursing her name. But by the time they realized they were being herded, it was too late, for she had already taken position high in the trees, her rifle steady, her breathing slow, her mind calm, and when she whispered to herself the old mantra, "One shot, one kill," the first bully dropped, his flashlight shattering in the dark, sending the others into panic. They thought it was an accident, a stumble, but then the second fell, A bullet through his leg, leaving him screaming on the forest floor, and before Travis could rally them, she was already gone, a ghost in the woods, circling, whispering from the shadows, letting them know that the farm girl they mocked was no prey. She was the hunter, and they were nothing but quarry. Over the next few nights, she escalated, breaking them apart, targeting their vehicles, cutting their tires, leaving signs that she was always watching, always 2 steps ahead, until paranoia began to eat them alive, and Travis, desperate to reclaim his pride, decided to storm her farm directly with all his men in one final act of intimidation. But what he didn't realize was that by coming onto her land, they had stepped into her battlefield, and the farm was no longer a quiet home but a fortress, rigged with traps, choke points, and ambushes only a Green Beret sniper could design. And when they came roaring through the gates with bats, chains, and guns, the night erupted into chaos, flares blinding them, hidden pits swallowing their feet, tripwires exploding with deafening bangs, and as they stumbled, confused and terrified, she struck with surgical precision, disarming, disabling, and dismantling them one by one, never killing unless absolutely forced, because though war had taught her efficiency, motherhood had tempered her with restraint. But even restraint has limits, and when Travis cornered Daniel in the barn, pressing a knife to the boy's throat as he screamed for his mother, something inside her snapped, and she stepped out of the shadows with her rifle leveled, her voice low and deadly as she told Travis that if he moved an inch, if he so much as breathed wrong, it would be the last thing he ever did. And when he sneered and dared her to prove it, she didn't hesitate, the bullet tearing through his hand and sending the knife clattering to the floor, and before he could recover, she was on him. Years of combat training unleashing in a flurry of strikes that left him broken, whimpering, and crawling in the dirt like the coward he truly was. The police arrived hours later, alerted by the smoke and noise, but by then, the farm was quiet again, the bullies restrained, the evidence clear, and though the officers were stunned to discover the quiet single mother had single-handedly dismantled an entire gang of thugs, they knew the truth. She had saved not just her son, but the town itself from predators who had thrived too long on fear. And while rumors spread in hushed tones about what really happened that night, she returned to her fields with Daniel by her side, tending her land as if nothing had happened, though anyone who dared cross her property line from then on did so with newfound respect, for they finally understood that some storms are not meant to be provoked, and some mothers are far more dangerous than any soldier you could ever imagine. And if you want to hear more stories of ordinary people with extraordinary pasts who turn the tables on those who underestimate them, make sure you hit that subscribe button now, because you never know when the quietest person in the room might be the most dangerous one of all.